Good. Record. Not yet. Hold it. Hello.
Sudah ada Pak Bowo.
Oke, we can start. Mbak Abil, Mbak Abi, sama Mbak Novi. Oke.
Oke, baik Pak. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the Visiting Professor 2022. My name is Novi Dufitriani and my partner Abigail Metanoia. We were here as the master of ceremony for today's event. Before we start, we would like to give some housekeeping notes. We would like to have your cooperation to mute your microphone to avoid any interruption in this event.
The theme for this year's Diponegoro Visiting Professor is Indoor Localization for Measuring the Progression of Parkinson Disease in Smart Houses. The event will proceed as follows. First of all, we will listen to the welcome speech by the head of the Informatics Department. At 5:03, we will have our keynote speaker today, Dr. Ferdian Jovan, Ph.D., Senior Research Associate from University of Bristol. To start today's event, we would like to call upon the head of the Informatics Department to give the first welcome speech for this event. Without further ado, Dr. Retno Kusumaningrum, as SEMCom, is now pleased to come to deliver the speech. The time and screen is yours.
Yes. Okay. So, Dr. Ferdian and all the participants, I'm sorry for turning off my camera later on because some limitation in my device. So, can you hear my voice, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Honorable, our speaker, Dr. Ferdian Jovan, the Honorable Lecturer, Department of Informatics, and all participants, good afternoon and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, on behalf of Department of Informatics Universitas Diponegoro, I would like to express my biggest gratitude to our speaker, Dr. Ferdian Jovan, for taking the time to fulfill our invitation and share his knowledge with all of us today. In addition, I would like to express my thankful to the local committee, Dr. Adi Wibowo, Mr. Prajanto, and Mr. Eko Adi Sarboko, who have organized this event smoothly, and all the other committees who I can inform one by one. Okay, in this today's lecture, we have interesting term that is indoor localization for measuring the progression of Parkinson disease in smart house. And as we know, Mr. Ferdian is the right person in conveying this study. For all the participants, especially our lovely student, please use this opportunity to ask and discuss this subject as best as you can. Finally, I hope you enjoy the rest of this lecture today, and this lecture will have benefit for all of us. Thank you for your attention, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Retno Kusmaningrum, SSDM.com, for delivering the welcome speech. Now we will proceed to the short photo session. For all participants, we would like to have your cooperation to turn on your camera for this session.
I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, great. First of all, I would like to ask whether should I use my English or can I mix both?
I'm sorry, Mr. Ini in this photo session.
Oh, in English, okay, no problem.
In the moment in photo session.
We will photo session first to capture the moment, Mr. Ferdian.
Sure.
Could you stop your sharing screen?
Okay.
We need to report to our. I'm sorry. Okay, good. Okay. Oh, you are unmute. Okay. Maybe Bijal, you can start the photo session.
Okay. We wait 1 minute to participant.
Okay, we can start. I think.
Okay, I can start this photo.
Take picture.
3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for your cooperation.
Okay. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are now about to start this session for today's event. You are cordially invited to join us until the end of today's event. Now we are very pleased to welcome our speaker, Dr. Ferdian Jovan, Ph.D., Senior Research Associate from University of Bristol. The keynote speech will be moderated by Prajanto Wahyu Adi Eskom MCom. For Prajanto Wahyu Adi Eskom MCom, the time and screen is yours.
Okay, thanks to our Master of Ceremony. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mr. Jovan. How are you?
I'm pretty well, thank you.
Okay, so I will be moderating this lecture. I'm pleased to see you. And before we start the speak, let me introduce our speaker today. Okay, Mr. Ferdian Jovan is a senior research associate at the University of Bristol. He has expertise in machine learning to robotics and intelligent system. He finished his bachelor degree in University of Indonesia in 2010, and then continued the Master of Computer Science in University of Bristol and Free University of Lausanne in 2014, and then finished his Ph.D. in Computer Science in University of Birmingham. He has several awards such as Lima Scholarship, University Alliance Programming, Erasmus Mundus Scholarship. He was employed as a research associate and teaching assistant in the University of Oxford, and then research associate in Royal Holloway University of London. He now works in several projects such as Catalyst Energy Access and Continuous Energy Joint Research, MIMRI Royal Holloway University. He has a latest qualification in last 5 years, which is a multi-robot coordinate system in operation and maintenance of offshore wind farm with temporal planning, a multi-robot platform for the autonomous operation and maintenance of offshore wind farm, and efficient Bayesian method for counting process in parallel observable environment. Okay, without further ado, let me please welcome our speaker in this afternoon, Mr. Jovan. The time and screen is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Prayanto. Okay, I'll try to share my screen now. I hope you can see my screen. Okay, then. Yeah, first of all, I will try to explain both in English and also in Indonesia to make it easy for everybody to comprehend. But the topic itself is actually it's quite simple. It's more like a simple science than heavy lifting, machine learning, or any other fancy neural network stuff. Yeah, probably I need to clarify. I changed the title from what already everybody else explained to Intelligent Systems, Our Future or Just Fiction, because I believe this is more kind of like easy to digest topics, so it would be easier for everybody to comprehend the topic and all the overall presentation, hopefully. Yeah, and also hopefully this will kind of motivate everybody to perhaps follow this direction to work in robotics or intelligent system or smart home or something like that, hopefully. So I will try to explain about the general idea of intelligent system or system cerdas, and how and why this kind of like creating a intelligent system is a really difficult problem. Biasanya kita kalau di saya sendiri sebagai peneliti di bidang machine learning and robotics, biasanya suka ditanya sama kawan-kawan biasanya seperti kenapa kamu nggak buat Alexa, atau pertanyaan seperti bikin Alexa, bikin Tesla sendiri dong. Pertanyaan-pertanyaan seperti ini tuh sebenarnya mudah bukannya tidak mungkin untuk dilakukan, mungkin, tetapi penerapannya itu tidak mudah. Terdapat kesulitan-kesulitan dalam mengembangkan sistem cerdas seperti ini yang dihadapi para periset saat ini, terutama ketika kita mau mengaplikasikan sistem cerdas, either robotics, intelligent robots, or smart houses, smart homes. Pengaplikasiannya ke dunia nyata itu tidaklah mudah. Mudah-mudahan pada di akhir dari presentasi ini kalian bisa melihat kemana kira-kira arah perkembangan dari sistem tersebut, sistem cerdas tersebut. A bit of background of my work. Yeah, so it's
wristbands help the system. They also contain accelerometers to help identify activity.
Yes, a bit of background about my work. So mostly of my work is kind of in the umbrella of autonomy for intelligent systems under uncertainty. And kenapa sih otonomi itu? Kenapa? Apa bedanya otonomi sama intelligent? Intelligent system sendiri artinya kepandaian atau otak dari sistem tersebut. Sementara otonomi itu adalah, kalau secara general, adalah kemampuan untuk si robot atau si sistem tersebut untuk bisa mengambil keputusan sendiri dalam keterbatasannya. Motivasinya penelitian ini bergerak itu dimotivasi dari penelitian saya waktu saya Ph.D. yang bisa dilihat sebenarnya ada di pojok kiri ini, tentang mobile robots that tries to learn its environment, especially the human-centered environments. So it's kind of like robotics, intelligent robots, and the variation of this work, I moved to more towards drones, where we kind of like work on kind of like extreme environment, either repairing a wind turbine or trying to clear a maze or a cave where people cannot get inside. So we just send a robot there. It's just like in the last 1 year, saya berpindah penelitian ke arah assistive health living system, more kind of like a digital health, di mana kita mengembangkan smart house that is quite easy and cheap to be implemented and move around. So yeah, the research itself has been going from 2013 until now, and we have been we as not only I but also other previous researcher in this area. So yeah, the project itself is called Sphere. We have been trying to install like lots of wearables and also camera systems, also environmental systems, ambient system living in almost 100 houses in and around Bristol area. So this is kind of like the last 1 year this is what I've been doing for my research. Although the autonomy itself is not really there, because I mean in general the intelligent system, when you talk about like a smart house, typically the furthest that we have come to is the one where we have tried to sensing around the house itself, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean in the last 1 year, penelitian saya dalam 1 tahun terakhir ini lebih fokus terhadap pengembangan rumah pintar dan juga bantuan untuk sistem bantuan di rumah untuk membantu biasanya untuk yang elderly, orang tua ataupun orang yang sedang sakit biasanya. Kita akan lihat itu nanti di belakang. Sekarang kita coba fokus ke apa sih namanya intelligent system atau sistem cerdas. Kalau kalian lihat kembali ke 10 tahun terakhir, umumnya ketika kita mendiskusikan tentang robot atau ya intelligent system, kita tuh melihatnya sebagai ada di industri ya. Tapi saya melihat ini adalah suatu robot that is quite dumb and stupid, but they are kind of like fantastically engineered, kind of precise to increase productivity. Sistem seperti ini bagus sekali. Sayangnya robot-robot seperti ini cukup bodoh ya, karena mereka hanya melakukan sesuatu berulang-ulang yang sama. Dan untuk mencapai tingkat presisi atau akurasi yang kita inginkan, harus ada seseorang yang menulis semacam step by step instruction untuk apa yang robot ini harus lakukan. Jika ada perubahan, entah posisi dari robot ini atau item yang harus robot ini tangani berubah, maka rules atau step yang tadi sudah kita tulis harus kita ubah kembali, sehingga tidak ada kesadaran akan tidak ada kemampuan untuk beradaptasi dalam robot-robot yang seperti ini. Sehingga ketika misalnya kita punya robot seperti ini, kita ambil item yang harusnya dia kerjakan, robot ini akan tetap jalan. Ketika tidak ada dalam hal ini mungkin robotnya sedang mengecat ya, jika tinta catnya tidak ada, maka dia tetap akan lakukan, walaupun tetap akan mengusahakan untuk spray tinta walaupun tidak ada tintanya. Atau ketika malam hari, jika pekerja lupa untuk mematikan sistem ini, maka sistem ini akan tetap berjalan walaupun lampu di sekitarnya sudah mati. Jadi tidak ada unsur kepintaran dari robot-robot ini. Juga tidak ada kebebasan otonomi untuk robot ini melakukan sesuatu. Concern kita di sini, kita ingin punya robot yang bisa bekerja sama dengan kita atau bekerja untuk kita. Unsur yang penting di sini adalah dinamika. Dan kalau diperhatikan kenapa robot-robot ini fantastis dalam melakukan yang mereka lakukan, karena sebenarnya unsur dinamikanya tuh dibuang ya. Jadi diangkat dari lingkungan ini. Jadi mereka ditaruh di controlled environment where there is no, basically everything's kind of static and all those things are kind of like repetitions, sehingga tidak ada unsur dinamis sama sekali di dalam lingkungan ini. Juga mungkin salah satu alasan ya kenapa kita tidak boleh berada di sekitar robot ini, selain mungkin untuk keamanan kita sendiri. Kalau kita berada di lingkungan robot tersebut, kita injek diri kita sebagai dinamika di situ, dan ini akan mengacaukan proses kerja robot-robot yang seperti ini. Jadi intinya kita ingin punya sistem cerdas yang bisa bekerja dan membantu kita bekerja sama untuk kita atau dengan kita sebagai assisted system or service robots seperti itu. But yeah, keep in mind that kind of like robot butler or robot maid is kind of too far-fetched, too far for us now to kind of like get that in work. So saat ini otonomi sendiri itu yang kita targetkan adalah untuk mengirim robot untuk mengirim robot di mana orang kita tidak dapat melakukannya, bukan tidak bisa melakukannya, tapi biasanya kalau di sini kita punya what we call 3D, dirty, dull, and dangerous. So we usually use to send robot to do those things, kind of like problems that are too dirty, problems that are too dull for us to do, or problems or tasks that are too dangerous for us to do, like fixing a wind turbine or trying to do kind of like a nuclear decommissioning, pembersihan nuklir. It's kind of like it's not safe for human. And up to now, if you follow this kind of like a nuclear decommissioning, what they call as a smart system is a person with a hazmat suit or something like that, where they use kind of like a stick to do kind of like cleaning. So it's not really smart, and it's potentially dangerous for those people. I mean, for their health. So here, apa sebenarnya yang membedakan robot yang kita lihat di sini dengan pintar sendiri? Pintar means that they have some kind of brain. Brain here is meaning that they have a computer to do some calculation and reasoning about their environment. And the funny thing is that kalau kita ngomongin robot, kita ngelihatnya sebagai sesuatu yang mungkin yang bipedal, yang berjalan dengan dua kaki, atau mobil. Tapi pada kenyataannya sebenarnya robot-robot tersebut ketika kalau di dalam universitas kita punya robot itu cuman sebenarnya komputer yang ada rodanya atau komputer yang ada tangannya. Jadi sebenarnya tidak ada something fancy there. It's just like how we create the brain, how we create the network for those robots to deal with the tasks at hand. So for this kind of like autonomy and intelligent robots, the robot to be called like autonomy and intelligent, they need to have sensors. They need to be able to sense. Sama seperti kita manusia, kita punya indera, robot juga untuk inderanya ya kita berikan sensor, bisa sensor laser, bisa sensor vision, atau kita pakai ultrasonic. There are so many variations of the sensor that you can attach to the robots that you want. Once sensed, the robot needs to intelligently react, and this react you can call it like a sequence of actions or plans. So robot sendiri ketika dia mendeteksi atau menerima input dari sensor-sensornya, typically robot itu akan mencoba untuk bereaksi terhadap sensor-sensor tersebut, dan biasanya dalam bentuk sequence of actions atau plan di sini. Dan setelah itu robot akan mengeksekusi plan yang sudah direncanakan, dan pada akhirnya biasanya adalah kita buat closed loop di mana aksi tersebut akan berefek terhadap lingkungan yang dapat diserap kembali oleh si robot dengan sensornya. Dan ini sebenarnya yang membedakan factory robot dengan intelligent systems that yang kita bisa bilang intelligent robots or smart houses or smart homes. Karena kalau robot-robot yang di factory itu dia biasanya hanya mengeksekusi scripted activities or like scripted instructions. Mereka punya plan, tapi plan tersebut is written by us, typically manually, with a really defined precision and accuracy. Bila tidak, maka robotnya tidak akan bisa berjalan sesuai yang kita inginkan. Dan ini yang membedakan faktor robot dengan intelligent robot. Kalau kita menggabungkan tiga hal ini, kita secara general kita sudah punya yang namanya autonomous intelligent system. Kalau kalian mungkin sekarang ini udah nggak canggih ya, tapi 10 tahun lalu teknologi ini yang saya tampilkan di layar merupakan robotics teknologi yang canggih. Ketika kita punya mobil yang bisa auto parking sendiri, ini udah bisa dibilang sebagai advanced robotics. Setidaknya 10 tahun yang lalu. Ketika yang sekarang kita udah punya level otonomi yang lebih tinggi, jadi ini mungkin udah cukup ketinggalan zaman. Tapi menurut kalian, apakah ini melihat kembali tentang tiga hal, sensor, planning, and executing actions, apakah sistem ini bisa dikatakan sebagai sistem cerdas? Oh ya, ini video saya ambil dari di Space company di Jerman. So ya, secara general ke sistem seperti ini sudah bisa dikatakan sebagai sistem cerdas ya, karena sensor ada. We use that to estimate the distance with kind of like LiDAR sensor or ultra range sensor. Plan juga ada. Once you detect the distance, you need to calculate and you need to kind of create like a movement or motion plan for the car itself. So plan ada, sensor ada, and then mobilnya nanti akan coba untuk parkir sendiri. So execution or action juga ada di sana. Jadi ini sebenarnya sudah lengkap untuk dikatakan sebagai sistem cerdas. Tapi menurut saya ini sistem cerdas yang boring ya. It's quite similar to factory robot that where you basically attach the sensing, and to do the planning and execution, you basically just do a simple trigonometry on this kind of problem, and that's pretty much. Tapi it's still like a difficult problem because you need to have a really good precision and also accuracy to execute this really well. And this is already up to now. It's already like really good to do this kind of like auto parking, and there are like so many advancing on many variations how you can park your car. But in general, it's still quite similar to factory robot with added sensor and also added simple calculation, trigonometric calculation. So ini bukan level autonomi yang saya sendiri tertarik. Saya sendiri tertarik lebih broadly speaking ke level human intelligence ya, kecerdasan yang biasanya ditunjukkan oleh manusia. Dan di sini ada contohnya. Ini adalah robot PR2. I believe this is still like the most advanced available robot available to public. I mean, you can buy this robot for very costly price. Robot ini dipakai oleh orang tim Jerman dari UM. Technische Universität Munich, where they developed like a robot where you can ask the robot to make a popcorn for you. So I mean, it will be like really the most expensive popcorn that you will ever have, because a robot makes it for you, and the robot itself is costly. And the robot is fully autonomous in this case. Yeah, you can request to for the robot to make you a popcorn. So to do that, the robot itself will try to download the recipe from internet, like a WikiHow. And for any missing information in that, the robot will try to fill in this kind of like a knowledge gap with its own reasoning. So sebagai contohnya, ketika ya kita request robot ini untuk membuat popcorn, robot akan download resep dari WikiHow. Tentu di WikiHow akan tertulis popcorn perlu jagung. Tapi secara general nggak kemungkinan sangat very unlikely that ada informasi yang bilang jagung itu ada di mana gitu. Jagung ada di dalam kabinet atau jagung ada di dalam kulkas. Informasi ini perlu untuk diketahui untuk si robot tersebut, karena tanpa mengetahui informasi ini, bagaimana dia akan membuat, bagaimana dia dapat mendapatkan jagungnya. Walaupun dia tahu resepnya atau cara membuatnya, kalau ingredientnya aja dia tidak dapat, tidak mungkin. Dan kehebatannya di sini adalah dia dapat menemukan informasi dari lingkungan, atau dari dia bertanya kepada orang di mana jagung tersebut, dan informasi tersebut dia simpan untuk digunakan di lain waktu. I mean, this is kind of like an amazing robot, but as you can see, it's still quite controlled, because I mean, this is kind of like a controlled environment. Robotnya ada di tempat yang terkontrol ya, bukan di tempat umum. Ya, buat kalian yang mungkin nggak tertarik dengan robotik, kalian mungkin akan berpikiran ini cuma robot bikin popcorn. There's nothing fancy about that, but the amount of work and collaboration to create this kind of robot is really high. It's really amazing. So you need to see like how the robot need to understand its environment, how it needs to fill the gap about its information itself, and how to kind of like control the movement and the precision to move everything there in order and in kind of like sequence without failing. So it's still a really good achievement. But again, still, I mean, you see that the robot is basically in a really nice controlled environment. What I mean by control is that it's table-nya sendiri aja bersih ya, nggak ada. It's not like a cluttered table. So not really like real world representation, I would say. But still, it's really great. So saya sendiri lebih tertarik kepada sistem cerdas yang fokus di human-centered environments, like assistive robotics, smart homes, human-centered environments that you have like lots of dynamics that are not on your own control or the robot's control. And yeah, there's no way that you can predict everything around you to make a really good and smooth actions, if that makes sense. So sebagai contoh di sini adalah ya, kita punya intelligence system, si robot A, kita bisa minta dia untuk robot tolong ambilkan saya gelas, ya robotnya, dan akan ya bisa cari gelas dan coba ngambil gelas yang kita request. Atau untuk smart houses, kita bisa tanya rumah, carikan saya remote TV saya hilang remote TV saya, tolong carikan remote TV saya. Di sini hal yang penting itu tidak hanya robot harus memiliki sensor, robot must be able to sense its own environment, either using like a vision or laser or any kind of sensors. The robot itself needs to have like a common knowledge atau pengetahuan umum yang kita manusia itu udah secara default kita udah punya gitu ya. And there must be a way for the robot to connect between his own sensing and this kind of like common sense to make sense about the task, the questions asked, and how it can achieve or can complete the goal. Sebagai contoh untuk yang remote TV tadi, robot sendiri itu perlu tahu bentuk remote-nya seperti apa. Warnanya seperti apa, biasanya warnanya seperti apa, dan biasanya ada di mana remote tersebut. Dan itu pengetahuan seperti itu, kita sebagai manusia, kita udah pelajari sejak kecil dan kita sudah tahu gimana. Dan ini untuk si robot tidak tahu, dan kita harus memberikan, we need to teach the robot about this kind of common sense knowledge. So, ya balik lagi ke intelligence system tadi. Secara general kita harus robot intelligence system harus punya sensor, harus dari sensor it needs to react by creating like a plan or a sequence of actions, and it needs to execute them. Dan di sini saya akan fokus kepada dua hal. Yang pertama yaitu sensing and also the planning or like creating a direct sequence of actions. Riset dari eksekusi itu sendiri banyak dilakukan orang. Sayangnya saya tidak fokus untuk riset di bidang eksekusi dari actions. Eksekusi actions ini biasanya umumnya kita harus mempunyai actuator seperti tangan atau seperti biasanya tangan ya, atau penjepit atau semacam itu, actuator untuk berinteraksi dengan environment. Sini actions that I usually do in my research is just like moving around, because usually we only have like a mobile robot or drones. That's it. So let's focus on the sensing part. So in kind of like human environment, the sensor usually the important part of sensing is how the robot can sense or detect humans and objects. I mean, you can put humans as an object, but I prefer to kind of like separate them. So yeah, we need to have like humans detection or sensing, and also the object detection or the object sensing. Ini penting karena kita berada di human-centered environment, so selalu ada benda-benda di sekitar kita, dan robot harus dapat membedakan benda-benda tersebut satu sama lain. Dan tentunya robot sendiri harus dapat mendeteksi manusia ya. So di sebelah kiri ini ada riset yang dilakukan oleh Denmark, Universitas di Denmark. Mereka menggunakan Kinect untuk membuat object segmentation on the fly, so kind of like online. If you know, like it kind of like detects scans with the Kinect the environments, and the data that usually is received by the robot is really huge. And I believe the research was kind of like done back in 2015, and I think it was like it was able to do segmentation online like 3 frames per second. So if you see here that the robot was moving around and it was able to segment all, not all, like almost all the objects in its vicinity, like in this bottom. Table becomes green, cupboard becomes green as well. Then if you compare now this object segmentation, this one and the current state of the art, or like the yang terbaik, the object segmentation yang terbaik itu yang dibuat oleh Facebook, namanya itu Detectron 2. You can use that right away, crunch your number and try to do this segmentation as well with your standard laptop, and you will probably get like 10 frames per second. So you can see that there's a huge amount of leap in terms of the power computation to do this kind of thing. But back then, to do this kind of like object segmentation is already really difficult, and you need to kind of compress all the data into manageable size so that it can be stored and it can be used later to recognize similar objects. And I mean, the object segmentation itself is not really interesting because it doesn't know what the objects are. I mean, it only segments the object but doesn't know what the objects are semantically. But this is kind of like the first step towards the object detection. And if you look at the right hand side video, this is how the robot sees the world from kind of like higher level of abstraction. To get this, in general work, you need to train a machine learning network. Machine learning, either classical or the fancy deep learning using neural network with bunch of images, preferably with kind of like a different angle, size, position. And yeah, you crunch the number, and the number that you get is typically a probability, as you can see in this video on the right. There's this detection of the person, and there's a probability that's what it detects is a person with the chance, or with the probability, let's say 83, 70% or something like that. So yeah, the problem of recognizing all of these objects are really difficult. I mean, not like a simultaneous detection, but it's more like the variation of the objects that the robot can learn and can understand. Yeah, it's quite difficult to get all the data to train your machine learning model. And back then, I think we only had probably around 100 objects that the robot can recognize, like day-to-day objects or like indoor objects. Now I think we have more than 1,000 or maybe 10,000 objects that the robot can recognize, thanks to Google and Facebook that have been like trying really hard to work on this image processing research. So yeah, we have like a sensing ability for the robot to sense and detect objects or segment objects, also person. So now is that how can we use that sensing? How useful is that sensing to us? Untuk itu, ini ada sedikit game yang saya buat. Mudah-mudahan kalian bisa partisipasi dengan, mungkin bisa jawab di chat atau shout is fine. So yeah, so now we have the robot with all the sensing technology, and robot is able to detect objects and also predict how accurate prediction of the object is. So in this example, let's say that I just woke up in the morning, saya bangun pagi, saya minta tolong si robot, let's call this robot Bob. Bob, can you grab me some breakfast? And yeah, robot, first of all, needs to know like the concept of breakfast, what kind of things that are edible, and after that, then we can move to the detection and assume that the robot is in the kind of like in the right place. The robot detects an object. Okay, there is a cereal, Oreo cereal. So then it's edible. It's detected with probability 0.6. Yeah. If you were the robot, would you take the cereal and give it to me? It's not a tricky question. So, so what would you do? Would you take the cereal, or would you maybe look around, or maybe you have any other idea? So saya bangun pagi, saya minta sarapan, robot ketemu objek yang dapat dimakan, sereal, dengan probabilitas 0,6. Pertanyaan saya adalah, apakah jika kalian adalah si robot, apakah kalian akan mengambil sereal tersebut? Oke, kita anggap sudah. Secara umum, kita akan ambil serial ini ya. 6 dari 10 yang mengambil serial ini dan mengantarkannya kepada saya. 6 dari 10, si robot akan melakukan hal yang benar. Akan tetapi di sini kita coba ubah sedikit ceritanya. Sama, saya bangun pagi, saya ingin sarapan, robot mencari, robot ketemu sereal, sekarang di tempat yang berbeda, dan probabilitasnya masih sama. Pertanyaannya juga sama, apakah kalian akan mengambil sereal ini dan mengantarkannya kepada saya?
Iya.
Masalahnya di sini adalah di tempat sebelumnya, jika kalian tahu, ini terlihat seperti kitchen ya. Jadinya masuk akal buat kita sebagai manusia bahwa kalau sereal ya di dapur wajar. Sementara ketika ada di sini, ini adalah toilet. Ketika kalian melihat ada sereal di toilet, kalian sebagai robot, apakah kalian tetap mengambil serealnya? Ya, di sini adalah masalah yang dihadapi robot ya. Ketika masalah dalam sensor adalah reliabilitas dari sensor tersebut. Walaupun akurasinya tinggi, tapi belum tentu keputusan yang diambil itu tepat. Kadang-kadang kita perlu menambahkan konteks di sini ya, atau informasi lain yang dapat memperjelas atau memperjelas apakah tindakan yang akan diambil itu tepat. So we need to build like a system that does the right thing for the right context. Cannot do this like this thing based on solely on just sensing, but you you need to like add the whole variety of context that we as humans understand naturally. Ya, kita sebagai manusia kita tahu kalau misalnya ada Oreo di dapur, it's fine, but cereal in the toilet, something is really wrong there, and yeah, we won't pick it up. So you need to teach this to the robot to understand this well as well. So how can you do that? Like the way we did that is that we try to create like a graph where we connect sensing with the context. We create like these graphical models where you can connect the different knowledge to one another, and yeah, we call it like a chain graph. The crucial thing here is that how do you calculate the probability for each object in particular rooms? Like, I mean, yeah, here sebagai contoh ke kitchen to milk, graph ini kita buat handmade ya, bukan otomatis tergenerate gitu sama sistemnya. Jadi kita handmade buat definisi ini, jadi untuk memberitahukan kepada si robot pengetahuan dasar ya. Masalahnya di sini adalah walaupun kita udah punya koneksi atau informasi atau relasi bahwa kitchen pasti punya milk, kitchen punya milk, kita nggak tahu seberapa akurat atau seberapa sering bahwa kalau susu itu pasti ada di kitchen gitu. So we need to add like the probability for each kind of like age here. The probability of this relation happens or this relation is occurs. Dalam prakteknya kita bisa lakukan ini dengan cara menulis ya, maksudnya dengan experience kita kasih informasi secara langsung kepada robotnya. Susu di kitchen itu probability-nya 0.8 atau 0.7, something like that. But there is another thing that is more kind of like fancy, because the one that I just mentioned is quite limited because it's based on your own experience. So our way is that we did this by crowdsourcing this information or these connections to Google image search. So in this way, like we misalnya kita pengen tahu nih probabilitas berapa sih probabilitas milk sama si kitchen tadi. Kita pair mereka di Google image search, and secara general kita kalkulasi berapa munculnya cornflakes pictures in this search. Sama semua seperti kalau kalian coba ke milk sama office atau milk sama living room, yeah, then you will get like a portion that we use as a probability here. Yeah, between the cornflakes, the object of interest, with the living room, with other things in the search. So yeah, this is like one way to solving the sensor reliability problem by adding context to the sensor detection. That makes sense. Another thing is that we also have so we also have like there's another way that is quite easy, is that you combine several sensors together to predict the same thing. So that's one of the easiest way to kind of like improve your sensing in terms of the accuracy and the performance. And di sini mungkin ini lebih ke arah side note ya dari main discussion kita di sini. Di sini adalah penelitian tentang sphere house, di mana sphere house is a smart house, dan ini adalah penelitian yang telah kita lakukan hampir 10 tahun, ya hampir 10 tahun. Kita menerapkan sistem ini di berbagai rumah yang rumah orang biasa, bukan spesial rumah, di mana kita install ini sistem ini. Sistem ini secara general cukup murah sistemnya, dan kita bangun sendiri. Jadi hampir semuanya nggak kita beli, jadi kita bikin sendiri wearables di sini, wearable devices that can detect the accelerometer and gyroscope information. So like seberapa sering kalian menggerakkan tangan dalam 3 aksis, X, Y, Z. Dan kita juga punya environmental sensor like light and humidity, temperature sensor that kita pasang di beberapa tempat strategis. Kita juga punya kamera, tapi kamera bisa menangkap tentunya RGBD, tetapi kita tidak bisa pasang kamera ini di semua tempat karena kita ada privacy issue. Nggak mungkin kita taruh kamera di dalam kamar. Jadi secara umum penelitian ini, proyek ini adalah untuk membuat rumah pintar yang accessible to public. Sekarang penerapannya adalah kita lakukan untuk melihat progres biasanya elderly yang baru sembuh dari operasi atau sakit penyakit, ataupun elderly with particular mobility diseases like maybe dementia or Parkinson disease. So yeah, I mean, this is like one of the layout of the house. This is actually the house owned by Bristol University, where we can test the whole system, or the whole smart house systems. And it is equipped with same. We also have wristband, the wearable devices there, environmental sensor as well, the camera. Due to the naming issue, we cannot call it vision, the sensitivity, so we call it silhouette sensor, because we cannot keep the RGBD data. We can only keep the silhouette data that I will show to you guys later on. And so I mean, this is the problem with sensor reliability, is that it's not always like accurate in predicting or sensing an object or an activity in this case. So we need to find a way to kind of like tackle that, and adding the context here doesn't help. Like ini juga mungkin game yang lain yang mungkin kalian bisa coba menebak ya. Di sini kita cuma punya wearable device accelerometer data that we record for maybe 5 seconds. We recorded for 5 seconds. Ignore the bottom part. Ya, lupakan yang 2 yang di bawah. Kalau kalian lihat 2 yang di atas, apakah kalian bisa menyimpulkan sesuatu? Accelerometer sensor itu mempunyai 3 aksis, X, Y, Z. Jadi kalau gerakan ke atas, Z-nya naik, turun, ke bawah naik, Y samping kiri kanan, and X is depan belakang. So in this case mungkin bisa ditebak ya, ada pergerakan minimal di tangan kanan, karena ini dia pakai satu di tangan kiri, satu di tangan kanan, dan setiap wearable device has an accelerometer sensor there, and each accelerometer produces these three axis value. Dan sepertinya ada pergerakan di tangan yang kanan. Pergerakannya limited di tangan yang kiri. Sorry, kebalik. Iya, benar, kiri. But that's pretty much where we can know, we can conclude from this, like you cannot really tell what kind of activity the person is doing by just looking at this. Tapi kalau misalnya si mesin kalian train with this kind of data, masih mungkin untuk memprediksi apa aktivitas yang dilakukan oleh orang tersebut. Tapi untuk tanpa itu ya kita nggak bisa tahu selain bahwa ada pergerakan. But that's pretty much. So I mean, if we add another sensor, this time is the silhouette sensor, then you can easily like kind of like predict or like conclude what kind of activity the person was doing. Like looking at this, this is the person. He tried to rotate or doing a turning. So the activity, you can say that it's turning and then walking. But again, without the information from another sensor, relying only one sensor, in this case the accelerometer, it's quite difficult to get sense of what the person is doing with a really good accuracy. So in this case, we kind of like combine two sensors together to predict the activity of the person. So simple term, kita punya ini adalah data yang kita punya, yang di capture oleh sensor-sensor yang ada di smart house kita dalam bentuk skeleton atau video RGB data, although it's probably not correct, should be silhouette data. And also this is information from the accelerometer, the inertial, which has a XYZ. And dan kalian bisa gunakan any deep learning technique, or kalau nggak mau terlalu fancy, kalian bisa gunakan classical machine learning method like random forest or logistic regression or sigmoid logistic sigmoid classifier. Dan di sini idenya sangat simpel, ya kita cuman gabung prediksinya menjadi satu dan kita tambah lagi another like a layer, or like you can use another machine learning method, simple one probably, and then I combine the prediction from each of this stream of data. Di sini yang mungkin perlu ditekankan adalah di sini adalah ketika kalian masukkan data dari raw data dan kalian crunching dengan neural network or anything else, hasil tengah yang bisa kalian dapatkan adalah suatu kompak representasi dari data yang kalian berikan, yang merepresentasikan kelas prediksi, ya. Jadi untuk misalnya untuk hal ini, anggaplah kita menganggap ini ada pergerakan turning dari kamera, ini adalah representasi compact representation dari pergerakan turning itu sendiri. Dan perlu diingat bahwa di sini adalah dua stream of data itu bisa mempunyai representasi yang berbeda. Ya, jadi video bisa terlihat seperti ini, sementara yang skeleton mungkin seperti ini, dan ketika untuk inersia seperti ini, walaupun mungkin prediksinya sama ya, tapi compact representation-nya sendiri itu bisa berbeda-beda. Ya, kenapa saya membicarakan hal ini adalah karena faktanya adalah ketika saya sebut di awal bahwa kita nggak pasang kamera di semua tempat. Jadi ada beberapa tempat yang tidak ada kameranya. Jadi kita cuma bisa bergantung pada accelerometer yang ada di wearable device yang dipakai oleh pasien ya, atau orang yang tinggal di rumah tersebut. Jadi dua data ini ya kita nggak dapat, dan kita cuma bisa rely sama bergantung sama si accelerometer untuk memprediksi tindakan apakah yang dilakukan oleh orang tersebut. Jadi walaupun kita adding sensor, tapi kalau ya orangnya di luar jangkauan dari sensor tersebut ya nggak begitu ngaruh ya. Oleh sebab itu di sini kita coba menerapkan teknik lain di mana kita semacam membuat seakan-akan si kamera itu melihat sesuatu, tapi data yang kita berikan itu bukan data yang berasal dari kamera, tapi data yang berasal dari accelerometer ya, seperti yang kalian lihat di sini. Accelerometer dimasukkan ketiga-tiganya. Ini dalam kasus di mana si kamera tidak menjangkau orang tersebut, jadi kita buat si kamera itu seakan-akan berhalusinasi melihat orang, walaupun sebenarnya tidak ada orang di situ. Tentunya di sini yang jadi masalah adalah karena balik lagi compact representation dari setiap jalur atau setiap tipe data ini adalah berbeda, maka di sini teknik yang kita tekankan adalah gimana caranya representasi data dari the input for this, like the accelerometer, the representation of accelerometer must be transformed or must be converted in a way that it will imitate the compact representation of the other sensors that it tries to hallucinate. That makes sense. So ya di sini idenya adalah untuk membuat compact representasinya mirip ya, sehingga hasil yang diberikan juga tetap sama. Untuk detailnya nggak perlu ya, tapi kalau untuk cari gambaran progresnya aja gitu. Jadi nggak semua masalah yang tadi kita lihat adalah nambahin sensor itu belum tentu menyelesaikan masalah, atau menambahkan konteks juga dalam hal ini tidak membantu. Jadi ya secara tidak langsung di sini kita menambahkan sensor, cuma kita menambahkan trik lain di atasnya untuk menangani hilangnya informasi dari sensor tersebut. And yeah, in this case, because actually the original title was like about the indoor localization, so I feel obliged to add about indoor localization. So this is kind of still connected to sensing reliability, because we use like two sensors. We usually when you do indoor localization, you rely on the RSSI, or receive signal strength indicator, and the value goes from 0 to -120 in our case, because it's in decibel and it's a wave, so it's always like a minus, yeah. yeah, usually you just use the RSSI to localize the person indoor, because I mean the RSSI relies on the signal strength information coming from each gateway or access points. Seperti kalau di rumah mungkin kalian di HP itu ada bar dari sinyal, ya itu bisa ditranslate ke RSSI. Seberapa kuat sinyalnya itu hasil dari ya triangulasi atau modulasi dari berbagai RSSI signal yang dijadikan jadi satu nilai. Sementara faktanya adalah RSSI signal itu coming from all the access points that are available around the sensor. Yeah, usually you use the RSSI signal to do this indoor localization, or in simple case it's just room level localization. Ya room level ya maksudnya kita pengen tahu orang ini ada di kitchen, apakah ada di kamar, ada di bathroom, or something like that. But yeah, in this way we use other sensor, which is the accelerometer, and that we have described before. Yeah, to kind of like boost the performance of the accuracy of the RSSI to classify locations or to do the indoor localization. And why we use the accelerometer in this case is because no privacy issue. The person could wear the wearables all the time, wherever they go. And yeah, there would be no any privacy issue. It's not like using a camera where you cannot use it in the bedroom or in the bathroom. And yet in this case, we show that the accelerometer actually helps to distinguish adjacent room, ruangan-ruangan yang berpapasan atau berdekatan, ya. Karena accelerometer itu kan cukup erat kaitannya dengan aktivitas yang dilakukan, ya. Misalnya dia di ruang tamu, dia duduk, itu mungkin tidak ada pergerakan di accelerometer, dan almost flat. Tapi ketika dia ada di hall, accelerometer akan naik turun karena orang itu berjalan, ya. Jadi ada distinguished features that accelerometer can help the RSSI to distinguish kind of adjacent rooms. Yeah, I mean, in this case, yeah, I think I already discussed that. Yeah, we have the data coming from the RSSI and also the accelerometer. This is a supervised problem. Dalam standard machine learning, we have either unsupervised, supervised, semi-supervised, self-supervised. But the big kind of like the big umbrella would be supervised and unsupervised. Supervised means that you have the annotated data or labeled data, and in this case, we do have the labeled room locations. So yes, it's basically just a simple traditional classifying problem. You have the room location, you train with the data coming from two modalities, and you try to predict the room. Although I mean there are like several other outputs that we would like to measure as well. One is the transition duration. Basically, we are counting or we are calculating how long the person is in the hall, and I will explain it later. And yeah, the result from that, we would like to try to make a connection with the severity of the person's diseases. In this particular case, it's about Parkinson disease. Parkinson disease itu erat kaitannya dengan mobility, ya. seperti tremor, sulit berjalan, stiff, ya keras ya, sulit berjalan dan bisa tremor. Jadi biasanya kita bisa gunakan transition duration ini. Semakin lama dia jalan di ya untuk mencapai suatu tujuan dari poin A ke poin B, bisa kita katakan bahwa penyakitnya semakin parah. Karena Parkinson disease ini adalah slowly progressing diseases, so the evolution is really slow, but it's constant. It's certain, and there is no cure for this disease. So we would like to know the kind of like the evolution of their disease without them needed to go to hospital. Yeah, this is just a detail of the data that we have. Again, yeah, we use the room because the problem is about room indoor localization. We want to predict room level location, so we use the annotation of the room to do this classification. Just one thing that is interesting here is that the data is based on the person living in this house, like Bristol's smart house for 5 days. So again, yeah, the data itself is not collected. Yeah, the data was not collected in a controlled way. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, the person was just living there, whatever they want, and we just record their activities in the form of the sensor data. Oops. And yeah, this is just some of kind of like the result. Yeah, we're just showing that the kind of like our neural network performs kind of the best, achieving the state of the art. That's for room prediction, at least for this particular problem. And the other one is that we would like to know the transition duration. And if you look at this house, there are like several locations that we group, like this is kitchen, room level kitchen, this is the hall, this is this is dining room, this is living room. And these 3 places are connected by the hall. So if we want to know how long the person kind of like moves from one room to another, then we need to use the hall as kind of like the hub. With that, we can calculate like how long it takes for the person to move from, let's say, from the kitchen to the dining room, by calculating just like the number of time in second that the person is in the hall between these 2 rooms. And again, yeah, we show that the kind of like our result is the closest to the ground truth. Ground truth means that, yeah, because we have the labeled data, we have the annotations, so we have information about like where the person is almost all the time, at least for 2 hours every day, because yeah, the camera was just running for 2 hours a day, not all the time. So yeah, I mean, and yeah, the method that we propose is kind of like having the best result closest to the ground truth in terms of like predicting the hall and calculating the transition duration of the hall. Okay, as actually that was kind of like a side note, just another effect of the sensor reliability and how you deal with the sensor problem by adding like another sensor, kind of like adding a context on that. In this case, yeah, this is still a problem sensor reliability, where we kind of have a robot in this case that autonomous, moving around in a kind of like office environment. So it's yeah, human space environment. The target here is that the robot must be able to navigate itself, learns about its environment, the dynamics of humans, objects around it for like for days, even weeks, without any intervention from the expert. Intervention here means that, yeah, we as like a kind of like a researcher or like engineer that make this robot, we're not allowed to touch the robot. So the robot must be able to help itself. Maybe if it gets stuck, needs to be able to unstuck itself, or maybe ask the person around it to help it. So it is kind of like another project that I was in, where the project was called Strands, and the data, yeah, the data that we collected here is based on from the Kinect sensor from the top, and also the LiDAR data from the bottom, laser data. And from that, we kind of create like a human activity room using kind of like a 3D point cloud to create like a room representation for particular rooms. We also collect some, yeah, this is simple one, trajectories of human trajectories. So we detect the person, we ask the robot, or with tasks like as a task to follow that yeah, humans around, and then yeah, we get some kind of a human trajectory around. And also the robot is able to detect and track the human, and from that trying to extract like what kind of activity the person was doing. And yeah, this is another like sensor reliability problem, where in this case, even like when you add context, it doesn't help. Adding other sensors also doesn't help. Like in this case, like assume that you have a robot with its sensor, vision typically, or maybe a laser scanner from the bottom of this robot. And there are always like some kind of bias in the prediction, or in the way it sends. You might be able to miss, as a sensor, you might be able to miss the person and call it like false negative, or you might misclassify some objects as a person. Like in this case, it's supposed to be a person, but it's actually it's not a person. It's just like a yeah, papers, a bunch of papers. So, and we call this like a false positive. And yeah, there are like yeah, different sensor has its own biases in terms of like false positive, false negative. So yeah, I mean, even if you combine them together without dealing with this, there will be some kind of improvement when you combine them together. Either we use the previous technique, or you can use a Kalman filter, particle filter on this to combine several sensors together. But the improvement will be significant when the sensor itself, the ability to sense, was so bad. So yeah, I mean, in this case, I was just proposing another way, first to compact the data representation again. And I think if in the previous, if you see that the data from like several sensors just coming to kind of like a neural network, and then crunch together and create like one compact data representation for each sensor. In this case, one easy way is that you add a sensor model and how they correlate to each other. In that way, then the result, you can combine all the results together, and you will create one compact representation instead of, like in this case, 3. Like in the previous one, you would have 3 here, 1 for each sensor, but in this way, you would have just one compact representation. And then, yeah, the result will be much better than doing it like kind of like separately, like in the previous one. Okay, that's pretty much for the sensor problem, sensor reliability. And yeah, I would like to take this time to move to the planning part. So planning is kind of like just a sequence of action when the robot sends something, it needs to kind of like react, because that's where the autonomy is. Then, yeah, that's kind of like the problem for the smart house or smart homes, because I mean, typically smart homes kind of like the current situation is just stuck on the sense part. So you're able to sense like, yeah, where the person is, whether that's a person or not, whether there's an object in this room or not. But typically the smart homes will not react on that, like to kind of like do something about it. And yeah, that's kind of like the current state of the smart houses. So yeah, I would like to see like there's an advancement on that, trying to have like a smart house where they can react to sensor and maybe make a plan. So like if you have a house like we discussed before, I asked for the house to find my my remote, then it will do that. But yeah, current state of the work, then yeah, it will not do that. So yeah, for this case, we go back to robotics again. I'm sorry. So for that, we are talking about planning. So creating like a sequence of action, reacting to the sensing that that was received. But yeah, there are like these yeah, given our AI has sensory systems should react in order to complete tasks or goals. So there's always like a goal or missions or tasks that needs completion, typically for kind of planning. These things are require an autonomous system to execute a sequence of actions to achieve a purpose under some kind of constraint. Yeah, and I focus here on the kind of like resource and duration. Duration here is kind of like the temporal domain of the problem, whether how long you want to execute the actions, or how long it will take to execute this problem. It's always that you want to execute a problem as fast as possible, with minimum with using just like minimum resource as possible. So there are like two kind of like two different direction for planning. One is kind of like instant planning, or more like an exploration planning. So you sense the information, you react as soon as possible from that decisions, kind of like instant decision based on the sensing that you get. Like in this case, we in this particular problem, we show that there's an exploration planning where we try to maximize human interaction. So when you see, like in this case, you see a person there, and the robot sensing that, and robot was trying to calculate kind of like the movement that it needs to do, but it's kind of like late. So yes, you can see here on the video. If I move it again. So there was some kind of delay because it needs to crunch some number, finding the right movement or motion planning to get to the person. And yeah, again, the aim is just to maximize the human-robot interaction. And yeah, typically you want to do this when you want to learn about human activities. You have like a human activity model that can learn about human activities, but there is no training data to kind of build the model itself. So you can use this kind of model before that model to kind of like catch the person, to find the person at the right place at the right time. But yeah, I mean, in this particular example, the robot was kind of late, and yeah, the person was already left that area. But don't worry about that, because not only, I mean, the robot was kind of like tracking the person, but the robot was also creating some kind of a temporal context about the environment in terms of human occupancy or human activities that it sees. So the next time it will not need to detect the person first, but it will be able to just go there first and see if there's a person there or not. Because from the experience, it already knows that usually there are persons there, and the robot can observe their activities there and let the activity models to learn the activities. So yeah, this is kind of like, yeah, the more like an instant planning with typically with the goal to maximize something. Another, I think this is the same. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of like just the result from the previous one. So the robot is able to predict where the most interesting place in terms of activities that people do usually. So yeah, the robot would be able to go there at the right place and the right time. And yeah, again, like I mentioned, the aim is just to learn about the human activities. So yes, for the activity models to learn human activities, because we don't want to have that activity models learn in kind of like controlled environment, because when you deploy that to the real world scenario, it more likely it will not work, because the controlled environment is always nice. Like in this example, actually, it's controlled environment. It's always nice, clear, clean data. Whereas in the real world deployment, you will not have that. There are possible occlusion that this restrict the vision of the camera. Maybe the person was too far. That is not possible to capture the to learn the activity itself. Okay, so that's one way of planning, which is the kind of like an instant planning, I would say. So this is one other example about that instant planning. So exploration, and this is another project where we have it's a collaboration with Royal Holloway University, Bristol, and Manchester, where we would like to deploy a foldable drone to the kind of like small cave. So yeah, I mean, we assume that the cave is small, that is only able to be reached by a drone. Although I mean, in our test, yeah, it's actually the cave is quite big, and the idea is that, again, like I mentioned in the very beginning, the autonomy, kind of like the goal of the autonomy currently is about sending robots to do 3D, dull, dirty, and dangerous. And this one falls into the category of dangerous because it's, I mean, also it's dirty, but yeah, it's more towards the dangerous side because it's a cave. There's possibility that the cave collapse, and you don't want to send people in that kind of cave. So it's better just to send a robot, or in this case, a drone, that can do an exploration, create like a 3D map of that cave, so the people outside can learn about the cave and see maybe potential hazard, if there is any potential hazard. So yeah, I mean, we have this small robot that can navigating by itself autonomously to explore the cave. Its constraint is only based on the battery, because I mean, if you know about drone typically doesn't have a long-last battery. Once it runs, it's only able to fly maybe for 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. So the robot must be able to carefully plan where it navigates, and also like has a backup plan to go back when the battery drops. So it's always able to reach the starting point to be taken out from this cave. So yeah, this is one of other project, and this is more towards the exploration part of the planning, where it's kind of almost done. Where the main goal here for the robot itself is to maximize the discovered area, because we assume that the cave was never discovered. So yeah, we don't know anything about the cave itself. So we would like to let the drone to navigate around, explore as much area as possible inside the caves. And yeah, that's kind of like the objective. Yeah, and then report back to the person in charge. In this way, we again, this is kind of like an instant planning. So where the robot basically is kind of like in the location, is already localized using a kind of SLAM technique, which is not, I will not discuss about that for this. So we assume that the drone is already localized, and using the sensor, like a LiDAR, in this case, almost like 360 degree LiDAR up and down. So almost covering all its surrounding. Although like the distance of the LiDAR is only like 5 meters or 2 meters, I don't remember. And yeah, from the LiDAR sensor, you will get like, you will create like a map, or like a picking points, or like potential next position for the robot to move. Yeah. And yeah, typically if you are like in a empty room or empty cave, then almost all area is a potential for the robot to observe. However, there are like some kind of heuristic applied here, so that it will not just randomly choose one of these many possible transitions, but it will choose the one that is the best. And yeah, you have like several the best ones here, and the way you calculate the best one is based on the heuristic. Can be like from the distance, based on the distance, or also you can use graph knowledge information. So I mean, if you already visited that kind of area, that area that the robot was planning to go, then there's no point to go there again, right? So it's better to choose something else. So this is kind of like, yeah, the value or like the probability for this kind of like point to be chosen by the drone is calculated based on heuristic, and the heuristic can be many. And yeah, I just mentioned like 2 of them. Yeah, then after you from this many, you choose potential points that the robot can travel with the highest score or highest probability to maximize the discovered area. And from this, you choose randomly. So yeah, in this case, you can see the example that, yeah, this is the plan, kind of like instant plan the robot would like to go, but this is based on the sensing again. So there's some sensing, planning and execution, sensing again, replanning and execution. As you can see, like in some of these position, initially it goes like this, that's a plan. Going down, oh, but there is like a wall here, it must go down back here. But yeah, again, the main goal is going to this place, so at the end it will go up again to go to this hall. And if you see, oops, if you see here the green thing with all the small dots there, it's actually all the potential points where the robot can go. And after that, there are some kind of pruning using heuristic to choose the kind of like the best potential points. And after that, you randomly choose from one of them. And again, the main goal here is to maximize the discovered area. And at the end, we would like to have a exploration planning, in this case, kind of exploration area that maximize all that can cover all the area as big as possible. So that's kind of like the instant planning. The other direction of planning is what we call mission planning. This one is more kind of like a long-term planning, involving not only several steps but more like yeah, tens of steps or tens of actions to achieve like one goal. And yeah, this is just a recap from the previous one that, yeah, given we have the AI sensory system, artificial intelligence and sensory system, and yeah, the robot should react. But in this case, it's more like robots should plan in order to complete the task. The previous one, it's more like react, because more like an instantaneous, like when the drone was flying, following the motion planning. If it's not reacting to the sensor input, then it might crash to the wall. But this one is more kind of like a slow, long-term plan. So input from sensor system is more kind of to create a plan or a policy that the robot needs to follow to complete a goal. And again, yeah, these things all require an autonomous system to execute a sequence of actions to achieve a purpose under some kind of constraints. Typically, in my case, it's more like a resource as in the battery value, or the battery capacity, or the battery left in the drone, the battery use, and the duration, like how long it will take to complete at least one mission. And yeah, typically when you have this type of mission planning, you always have what we call model. As the name suggests, model is to model like the problem itself and the word of around it, if that makes sense, like the physics of the of the word, the constraint of the word, then yeah, this is where you have a model that you describe yourself. And you also have a specification, and specification can be the task that you give to the robot, like bring me a cup of coffee, or find me a soda. Yeah, that kind of goal can be given by a user, or it can be created due to particular circumstances. Let's say that the robot was going somewhere, but the battery was dropping for some reason, so the robot needs to replan to go back to maybe to the shore or to harbor to recharge. So yeah, the specification can be a goal, can be coming from the robot itself due to the circumstances. So that's where the autonomy is, or the specified goals or tasks by users. Yeah, can call it also objective functions. It also can come from the sensory input, the information from the sensor, whether it's the text, a person, or an object that might be of interest for the drone or for the robot itself. And then yeah, both of these kind of like data you put into the planning algorithm. There are plenty of planning algorithms that you can choose depending on the problem that you tackle. You can go from the temporal planning or motion planning, or you can use the Markov decision process. And then yeah, just put all the model specification to this kind of planner algorithm. Someone already developed that, so you don't worry about that. And it will give you some plan or a sequence of actions. It can be called controller, can be called policy, can be called state machines. And yeah, then the plan, you just need to execute the plan itself. And typically the plan here typically is more like on an abstract high level, not on the low level. Like when you see like an object, you don't want to work on the pixel levels on that, because the search space will be tremendous. But you would like to go to the abstract level, like, okay, this is a bottle, this is a cup. That's why we have the sensor, the sensing ability to kind of like detect and classify objects or classify things. And yeah, and then the input from that will be given to this kind of planner. So the planner can create a plan that it can follow to reach a goal or like complete a task. However, like the researcher, yeah, some of them like believe that this is model-based AI. It's often viewed as kind of like brittle. Brittle here means that gampang hancur, rapuh due to the mismatch between the word and the model. Jadi ya, kalau kembali lagi tadi ya, ketika kita ngomongin informasi yang kita dapat dari sensor, itu belum tentu akurat ya. Dan ketidakakuratan dari sensor sensing about something can make the robot misperceive the environment, and in turn creates kind of like wrong plan, incorrect plan that might lead to the catastrophic failure. But I will argue here that the planning for autonomy is only feasible with models of the word. Yeah, autonomy here, like yeah, you need to have like some kind of freedom to decide, to make a decision making, and in fact, like several decision making, and it's only possible if you do that in this kind of framework, I would say. So in my case, I would solution here is the solution that I propose is to create models that parameterize fixed structures, but instead of like using the fixed structures, you use the data from experience or from learning. Like in this, sorry, I need to drink. Apologies for that. Yeah, in this video, if you see that, yeah, this is the drone trying to bring like a crawler below that drone. Yeah, this is a simulation, so not a real one. And on the right, you can see like the generated plans. So this plan was generated in the very beginning, from the very first, because I mean there was a request from a user, in this case the wind turbine operator, for the robot to fix a wind turbine with a crawler. Crawler is a 6-leg robot. So yeah, then so that is a request. So you have a goal, and you do the sensing to know the environment, the information about how much battery you have, whether the crawler is attached to the drone or not, whether the crawler has enough battery, and is every sensor working perfectly. It's more like kind of like just a binary value, either yes or no, that are fed to the the specification as the sensor input. So it's not like really complex point cloud data, or yeah, not even like pixel data. So it's just like an abstract level, as I said, about the word, and yeah, about what the sensor perceives. And in this case, yeah, then yeah, you generate the plan. I use a temporal planner for this particular instance, and then the robot just follows the plan. There's some kind of changes in the environment, then this is what I mean, that the models, the parameterized fixed structures, instead of using the fixed structures, you use the data from experience. So while you're doing this, the robot kind of like learns about the dynamics about its environment related to itself. Like for example, like the transition time from one place to another, like maybe from ground to takeoff, after takeoff to the closest waypoint near the wind turbine, how long it takes, and it keeps recording the value that can be used later to learn about the changes about this. So instead of giving like a fixed value, let's say that takeoff it takes maybe 10 seconds. There's possibility maybe because of the new battery or maybe new propeller, to take off it only takes maybe 5 seconds. So yeah, it can always like get a feedback from the sensor, that the feedback is used to replan if it's needed. So from the last one, I mentioned about the adaptive system, and typically when you have kind of like a mission planning system, or combining all the kind of like 3 pillars that I mentioned, the sensing, the planning, and the action. In more kind of like technical term, this is what it looks like as a structure, where you have these, this is the planner algorithm that runs here, creating a plan that will be dispatched to the robots or to the agents. This is the domain or the model of the problem of the word, and yeah, input from the robotic system going here to be fed here as kind of like specification. Yeah, if it's needed, then there will be a request, and also yeah, then the goal will be fed to the planner to create a plan. And yeah, this is the kind of like the robotic system where the actuator is, or like the actions will happen. And yeah, this is where the word is. So the sensor will receive the data, the effect after the reaction of the robot or the action of the robot, and yeah, feedback that to the whole system. I mean, this is kind of almost adaptive, but again, when I mentioned like there is instead of using the fixed parameterized problems, how about we kind of feed the data from the word received by the sensor directly to the model itself, so the model can adapt to the changes in the environment. And this is basically what we do. So you have the sensor, you add the state estimation, then you usually like have a kind of like the domain description about the word, like for example, yeah, the distance from, or like the speed of the drone is around 4 kilometers per second. Wow, so fast, kilometers per hour. It will consume maybe 1% of the battery per kilometer. But when you read, okay, then you create a plan for a particular mission, maybe to fix a wind turbine, or maybe just to monitor a wind turbine using a drone. Then the drone and the system inside the drone will create a plan based on this information and the requests. And when the drone kind of like executes the plan, because of this part, the sensor receive the information, like maybe the information about the duration of or like the speed of the drone. Somehow it's not like 4 kilometers per hour, it's more like 3.5, or maybe like instead of like the 1% per kilometer the battery depletes, it's more like somehow 10% battery depletes per kilometer. Then you can refine this information. You can add this information to the domain problem and kind of like replace the previous one. So the problem is more adaptive, and the good thing about this is that when you deploy this to the new place, then you just need to kind of like rerun this several times, not so many, then it will kind of like have a good representation of the word, and robot will have a good prediction about creating a good plan for that particular deployment. And yeah, this is kind of more the example. So this is like one scenario. This is actually one action. So the mission itself is to drop this small robot, the crawler, to this very flat, very grounded wind blade, not even a wind turbine, a wind blade. So yeah, that's the mission. The action, the mission consists of like several actions to kind of like to achieve this mission. One of the action is to drop the crawler, yeah. So yeah, this is near surface hover and deploy. So yeah, dropping the crawler. When you run this several times, like over the course maybe of 10 days or maybe 15 days, with several repetition of this kind of action, yeah, dropping this thing, and using kind of like that refinement, because you kind of like record the activity, whether the action is failing or successful, then you can create this kind of a distribution, probably distribution of this activity, and the red one represents the successful dropping. Yeah, as you can see, ignore the value on the y-axis,
Mr. Jovan.
but you can see that most of the time it's kind of like successful within maybe 5 seconds. Yeah, to drop that, and then it drops to maybe 10 seconds around here, lower than 5 seconds, and somehow it goes back up, and you might wonder why. This is because the when the robot tries to drop this thing, there is kind of like trying, like several tries, because there is possibility that the chain is stuck, or the chain lock is stuck, or the leg is somehow connected to the leg of the drone. So yes, like mechanical failures have been accounted here as well, and that's why you have like a dip here and someone going up here again. This means that there are successful dropping within 25 seconds. So after like 5 seconds, if it's not successful, it will try again and try again and again. And most of the time, somehow, apart from the 5 seconds, yeah, it will be successful around 25 seconds to drop this deployment. And the green here, the really light green, is the time when it's kind of like unsuccessful. So it cannot really be dropped due to the sensor failure, more like a mechanical failure. And yeah, I'm showing you quite a bad result here, because actually it's most of the time that the deployment of this crawling robot, this mission is unsuccessful. Yeah, because of the action of this action is unsuccessful, and the whole mission is unsuccessful. But yeah, I think you can see the point of having this learning from the experience and trying to create like a distribution model of that to make your robot adapt, kind of like to choose the right action to decide. Like, I mean, with this, you would say that, yeah, I will need to do this kind of deployment. The robot will need to have time around maybe 30 seconds. This is the Gaussian mixture model from this. So you combine this and this together, and it will create this the green, dark green. So yeah, the robot can kind of estimate. So it will need around 30 seconds. At least with the 30 seconds, you can be sure either you're successful or unsuccessful, right? So yeah, that's mission planning, and why we need to kind of have an adaptive system with some level of uncertainty. And in particular for this problem, why we want, or why I stick with this kind of model, because there are always other models that might be maybe better in performing this problem. But this particular model, when you use this model and specification using the planning algorithm, is that when you the explainability of the system itself. Yeah. So let's say you have you are as an operator in front of your computer. So this is the actual user interface for our system, for this memory project about
Mr. Ferdian,
fixing the wind turbine. So yeah, you are as an operator trying to create like a mission. Oops, that's fast. Creating a mission putting all kind of like the waypoints and the mission that you would like the drone to do. Yeah. Yeah. Also, like we have the boat as well, but yeah. And then yeah, once you are satisfied with your plan, you let the robot go with the plan that you don't build. You just say, okay, I want you to do this, and robot will create the plan by itself. We are happy with the plan, then you let the robot go, okay, and the robot will go. Assuming that the robot will go to the wind turbine, and somehow it's at some point hasn't finished its job, but it decides to go home. Other models will make you puzzle why it's happening, and you kind of need to guess yourself. Yeah. But using this kind of framework, you can always kind of like retrace back why it happens like that. So because I mean, if you remember that, yeah, the robot will create a plan and then it will display to you, and you can say, okay, the plan is good, then the robot will go. And when it goes to the wind turbine and somebody decides to go back without finishing the plan, it will create a new plan due to some circumstances. And this is kind of autonomy of the system itself. And it will, because I mean, yeah, it will tell you the battery low, why, how, by kind of like retracing the kind of the plan or the new plan that the robot created. And you can see, okay, you can see the state of the robot, and you can tell, okay, the battery is kind of like that, or maybe the other drone is stuck or something like that. Then yeah, you can always reason with this kind of framework, and it's more kind of like transparent to you other than other model. Okay, so to kind of like close this, I will yeah, I think I will just show you this kind of like our final work. Yeah, the project name is MEMRI. Double E at the end is kind of like extreme environment. And
Excuse me, Mr.
Okay, yeah. Okay then.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much.
Yeah, I think Mr. Prajanto want to say something.
Okay, Mr. Jovan.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, but the time is.
Sorry, I didn't see the chat.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jovan, for the great presentation. It gives us a very informative and interesting. Maybe it can give us a new insight and opportunities. Okay, before we continue to the question and answer, we can conclude that first, the autonomous is perform the pre-programmed instruction that the intelligent system it can adapt to the environment, and then for the object detection we have some of the part. First is the segmentation to detect the object, and then for the object detection that recognize the segmented object. And in several cases, like in the localization, adding sensor and contact doesn't guarantee the accuracy. It can cause a sensor bias and need to add manipulated data to the sensor models. In measuring human mobility, the accelerometer can be used to improve the accuracy in an existing room. And last conclusion that we can say, the challenge in multimodal sensor is to create a complete representation of those sensor. That's a very interesting topic in this lecture. So we can have maybe 3 questions first from the audience, ladies and gentlemen, or students. If you have a question, you can turn on your mic, ask directly to Mr. Jovan, or type in the chat room. Okay, Mr. Jovan.
Yeah.
As we know that the problem is if we add more sensor or model is the sensor bias.
Yes.
Okay. What does it mean, the sensor bias? Is it mean that the data from one sensor can disturb the another sensor, or what? Can you explain that, Mr. Jovan?
Yeah, I mean the sensor bias here is more kind of like independent. So like when you have like a vision camera, right? Yeah, or maybe the lag detector using the laser scanner. Yeah, when there is like a bangku, chairs, it can be detected as a person because maybe of this separation and it represents kind of like the legs of persons. Yeah. And that's what I mean by kind of like bias. So there's kind of like a systematic bias from the sensor itself. And when I mentioned like yeah, the other problem is that you need to also take into consideration that some sensors kind of like correlate to one another, in the sense that like for example you have the a lag detector detecting that false positive of something else, but somehow you see that the vision quite accurately detects a person, and then so you can see there's a somehow like a good relation, like okay, if the lag is detecting this in this area, but the vision is detecting a person, then it's good enough. Then you would like to capture this this kind of like correlation, right? Whether they have a good positive correlation or they have a negative correlation, and it doesn't matter. Actually, yeah, it quite matters if you add more sensors to this kind of like correlation problem, because it's the more sensor you add, it's more like exponential in terms of the correlations. Because let's say you have two sensors, only two for one relation. When you have three sensors, you have like two, and when you have four sensors, it becomes like four. So it's kind of like a exponential in terms of number of sensors, especially when you want to find a correlation, because sometimes the correlation is good to kind of like make the prediction more accurate.
Okay, so the decision is based on the positive correlation.
Not only positive, you would like to capture positive and also negative. So let's say that the yeah, the like in the case that the lag detector is always detecting nothing, but the head is always detecting something. Because I mean this is kind of like more like a classification problem, yeah. So or like active learning problem. So you actually ask, or the robot actually asks a person like, are you really there? So from that you really know, okay, I need to trust the vision more than the lag. But in some cases probably the other way around. In some cases maybe both of them kind of like show a good combination. So yeah, you still need to kind of have a feedback from the user or from the persons that being observed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jovan.
Yeah.
Maybe there is some question for Mr. Jovan. I think it's a very interesting topic in current research, especially in AI, in intelligent system, in robotics.
Yeah. Maybe topic is too difficult. I hope not.
No, I think because we have some courses like robotics, artificial intelligence that match with these topics. Mr. Adiwibowo, maybe you, I think you will ask a question to Mr. Jovan.
I think what is the recent gap, like how we are for computer scientists because in our curriculum we are not learning about robotics and about the sensor. We are only learn little bit about sensor, how we how to say, we can get involved higher about in this research in robotics. One thing, and the second thing is about the dynamic environment. I think it's really interesting because in an NLP, natural language processing, I think people now really good in algorithm for on how to say chatbot, like for example chatbot, and how the dynamic many thing about the chatbot, but sometimes chatbot can detect the how to say slang word or something. But how about the robot? Like this is because the robot require more information, or the algorithm still need say improvement many more compared to the NLP.
Okay. Yeah, for the first one, mungkin saya coba pakai bahasa Indonesia ya, mungkin terbata-bata, maaf. Jadi sebenarnya kalau pengen bermain di dunia robotik itu sekarang saat yang menarik ya. Maksudnya robotik itu kan nggak terbatas dengan harus ada robot ya, entah itu harus beroda atau drone atau apapun, bahkan yang kayak tadi NLP aja pun kita bisa bilang sebagai robotik. Kenapa bisa dibilang robotik? Ketika kalian mau punya robot, salah satu sensornya adalah sound ya. Dan untuk membuat robot itu, apalagi untuk robot yang kita pakai di lingkungan manusia sebagai assistive robot atau ya buat assisting kita, NLP itu kepake gitu untuk si robot ya. Jadi nggak harus. Jadi sekarang sebenarnya robotik itu udah hampir blending sama AI, neural network, ML, machine learning di sini. Jadi udah agak blur ya. Jadi sebenarnya kesempatan yang baik untuk coba-coba, ditambah lagi dengan kemampuan komputer sekarang dan ditambah lagi kayak banyaknya like free computing power like from Google Colab gitu ya. Itu bisa dipakai buat kita sendiri belajar gitu. Mau belajar robot perlu apa? Robot perlu vision. Nah, vision kita bisa belajar, kita bisa pakai state of the art dari teknologi yang dikembangin sama Google, sama Facebook, seperti yang saya sebut tadi, Detectron 2 dari Facebook, itu lagi state of the art buat object segmentation, atau pedestrian tracking dari Google, itu bisa kita pakai gitu ya. Dan benar-benar kita langsung pakai dan coba gitu. Dan itu kan nggak perlu robot. Dan secara nggak langsung kalian itu belajar tentang robotika. Robotika itu kan nggak harus tentang yang berhubungan dengan aktuator atau controller. Sensing itu juga bagian dari robot. Robot di sini soalnya saya selalu menganggap robot itu sebagai intelligent system ya, yang seperti yang tadi berdasarkan 3 pilar. Jadi kalau kalian pegang, apalagi kalian pegangnya tadi kayak NLP atau machine vision, itu udah bisa dibilang seorang robotikus ya. Terus untuk yang NLP tadi ya, ya NLP sendiri tadi yang kayak bilang udah blending sama robotik sendiri, kayak misalnya kalau pakai standar yang sangat rendah dari definisi intelligent system, menurut saya Alexa pun atau Siri itu udah bisa dibilang intelligent system ya. Jadi nggak bisa dibilang si robotik itu belum nyampe sampai NLP. Sebenarnya NLP-nya, robotiknya udah NLP-nya udah dicakup sama robotik. Tinggal mungkin yang masalah di sini adalah hardware ya. lebih ke arah hardware-nya gitu. Kalau kita punya prakteknya gitu ya, kita minimal dari pengalaman saya, kalau kayak punya Alexa itu kan packagingnya bagus ya, terus juga mungkin sensor suaranya bagus. Sementara kalau kita pakai yang punya saya waktu robot itu, si Bob, robot yang bulat itu suaranya itu nggak ada di atas, suaranya itu ada di karena dia pakai laptop ya, sebenarnya cuma kayak saya bilang itu robot itu sebenarnya cuma laptop sama roda, jadi kayak sensor suaranya ya mic dari laptop yang ada di situ gitu. Jadi kalau mic-nya kurang bagus ya data yang didapat juga noisy ya, dan hasil dari translatean buat ke sistemnya juga nggak bagus. Jadi mungkin lebih ke arah hardware ya, bukan daripada perselisihan antara dua brands gitu. Mungkin saya mesti presentasi bahasa Indonesia.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jovan and Mr. Adi. Maybe there is another question for Mr. Ferdian Jovan. Okay, I think the question and answer session is enough. So thank you for Mr. Jovan, and I'd like to thank the speaker for the informative and interesting presentation, and all of the participants for the very active presentation. And I would like to apologize if, for any inconvenience that occurs during this session. Finally, please we give applause reaction to Mr. Jovan. And for the next agenda, I will return to the Master of Ceremony to handle this session. Thank you, Mr. Jovan.
Thank you.
See you.
Okay, thank you for Dr. Ferdian Jovan, Ph.D. for taking the time to be the speaker at the Visiting Professor 2022. And also thank you for Prajanto Wahyu Adi Eskom Mkom for being the great moderator for this event. As the time passed by, we have arrived at the end of this event. Thank you very much to everyone who has participated in this event. We deeply apologize for any inconvenience that occurred during the event. We hope that all of us can learn a lot from today's session. Thank you, and until the next time. Goodbye.
Hey, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Ferdian.
Thank you, Mr.
Jovan.
Ferdian.
Bye.